Time for the Weird and Wacky segment.
Abominable snowman.
He's not an axe murderer.
One of the TAs turned out to be a bot.
All right, our first weird and wacky. Farming robot kills 100,000 weeds per hour with lasers. And let me just say, this thing is awesome.
Yeah, when I saw this article, I had to tag it because it was with lasers.
It's got 12
if it was with
cameras.
anything else, I would not have tagged it, but it's with lasers.
Yeah, I mean, it goes down the rows. It's got 12 cameras to spot weeds, and then it has lasers to like pinpoint where it needs to zap the weeds. And apparently it can kill weeds about up to about 20 acres per day, whereas a person can only do 1 acre per day.
Yep.
So like, this is pretty amazing, and I'd like to see it in action. Like, I think we should take a field trip. I'm just saying.
And on top of it, there's no chemicals or anything else like that. You're just burning up the weeds.
It's
You're
just lasers.
Frying them.
Listen, as we all know, people, you have nothing to fear from giving AI lasers. Like, obviously that's going to end well. So I'm just...
Oh, I just realized what might be wrong with this plan. This is a part of Skynet, isn't it? They're gonna train the lasers on us then after this.
That's what's
they're just
happening next.
practicing on the weeds, and then they're gonna come after the humans.
And the reason they're going to come after the humans is because of people like this next article, which I'll let you introduce.
So I saw this on Twitter. There's not an actual article.
Right.
There's a stream of tweets from this guy.
Yep.
But man spends 6 years parking in every spot in a parking lot. And I got to say, you got to look at the color-coded spreadsheets that this guy came up with. So this guy is in England.
So good.
And he decided that he was going to park in every valid parking spot in a parking lot at his grocery store. And so it took him more time than he expected because of the pandemic, but it took him 6 years. 6 years he's been tracking this.
Yeah.
And he parked in every possible spot. He didn't park in the handicap spots because that's not allowed for him.
Or the
family spots or the motorcycle.
Yeah.
But the family spot, because he has kids, he was able to park in those. But it is
and so just to be clear,
impressive.
This is on his weekly trip to the store to buy groceries. So it's not, we're not saying like, oh, he went there in the middle of the night and then just pulled and parked. No. We're saying on his weekly trip, he tracked where he parked in the parking lot each time until he parked in every single space. For what reason? I mean, who really knows? But there was one particular part of his tweet thread that just cracked me up. So he said, I'm going to read this particular quote. He says, after quite a few years of going each week, I started thinking about how many of the different spots I'd parked in and how long it would take to park in them all, period. My life is one long roller coaster, period. I thought, I like this guy.
Yeah.
My life is one long
and then he goes,
coaster.
this week I completed my magnum opus. I will say that it's kind of fascinating. He's ranked the parking spots based on parking spots you should avoid because they're bad.
Yeah.
And then the ones that are good. And what it reminded me of, I don't know if we've ever recommended this site before. It kind of doesn't matter right now during a pandemic, but the website Seat Guru. So there's a bonus tech rec for you. Seat Guru will tell you on a plane which ones are the best seats and which seats to avoid.
Oh man, I need that.
Because maybe they don't recline, or because they're too close to the bathroom, or it's too cold because of whatever. And so they give you all of that information. His parking lot map reminded me of that. If you go to this parking lot, you know exactly what spots are good and where you should park.
The other thing that was great about the parking lot map, I can't believe we're talking so much about a parking lot map on this podcast. Oh my gosh. No.
How awesome is it?
But the best part of the parking lot map is the best spots he has he has them labeled as God tier. It's just hilarious.
And I gotta say, I wonder how long it took him to get the God tier ones, because they're all the ones that are closest to the supermarket.
Yeah.
So those are always busy and full.
Yeah.
So those were probably the toughest ones for him to.
It's so
line
great.
up.
It's so great. All right. So next article, a college student used GPT-3 to write fake blog posts and ended up being at the top of Hacker News. So GPT-3.
So listeners probably don't understand like 3 or 4 of the phrases in that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I'm not entirely sure I understand all of it either. Most of it, right? So GPT-3 is an AI that creates written language. And so essentially what he did was he created an introductory paragraph on his own, and then the AI wrote the rest of the article, and then he posted it to Hacker News, and it ended up getting like #1 ranking for that particular day. And basically the point was proving that we're getting to a point where AI written articles can be pretty fantastic and maybe scary good. And maybe that means we really shouldn't trust everything we read on the internet because it's created by an AI with lasers.
Yeah, that will kill you.
Yeah.
By the way, if you don't know Hacker News is the website that still looks kind of like a circa 1994, 95 website.
Yep.
Kind of like Craigslist as well, which is the same design and style. But it's run by Y Combinator, which is pretty well known in startup circles.
Yep.
But it is the incubator program, accelerator program. I don't know which one they call it. I guess it's an accelerator, not an incubator. Accelerator program. For startups that a lot of well-known startups like Lyft and Airbnb and folks like that have gone through. So they've got a website. You can go to news.ycombinator.com and you can see some of this nerdy news. And if you go and troll there, you will probably see some of the articles that we talk about.
Absolutely.
Before we talk about them. Next up, somebody else that has fooled people and things, a Russian AI graphic designer, in quotes, fooled the world for an entire year. So this agency, this legit agency, put together software and actually even gave it a name, Nikolai something or another.
Yeah.
And this AI, you would pay it up to, I think it was like $1,000.
I was like 1,015. I mean, it was a decent amount of money. Right.
Yeah. And you would only get one revision. It would create you a logo, or this designer would create you a logo, but in fact, it was software. And it went for a year, and people didn't realize that they were getting logos done by a computer.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, and that really tells me that #1, design, I mean, it can really be to some degree consumed and manufactured by an AI that's a learning algorithm, has a learning algorithm. And #2, that means that, well, I don't know, maybe a lot of our designs are going to start coming from AIs at some point. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I wonder then what you do to have good design, right? Like to have a human.
My guess is that you have elite designers that are like really amazing. And then you've got this middle tier that's sort of maybe they're getting working, maybe not. I think the lower tier of design just completely goes away and becomes automated, honestly.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I've always felt like, the thing that you can't automate, you can't do by rote is that creativity part.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe you can to some level.
Well, I mean, I think what you can do, and it's what designers do anyways, you take components, right? So like when a client comes in and say, okay, I want a logo and I want these colors, and here are all of the logos that I really like, and I want to, and this one's a shape-based logo, and this one's got hard lines, and then you go, oh, okay, well, let me just borrow from this and borrow from this and borrow from this and piece it all together, and boom, here you go. And there's no reason that an AI can't do exactly that. So I think maybe creating original pieces of art is very different than what we're talking about. But when you're talking about like logos or like t-shirt design or something like that, I mean, really, you're just creating iterations of other things that have been out in the marketplace most of the time, which is exactly what this AI probably was doing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, as you were talking, I started thinking about our logos for Tech Talk Y'all and Together Letters.
Yep.
And thinking about the logos of both of those, and those are two different designers.
Yep.
I don't think a AI would have come up with either, and I love both of them.
Yeah, it's distinctly,
both of them really speak to the thing that we're doing, and they have unique elements, both of them.
Yep.
That I don't think either one of us actually fed into the process.
Right.
Right. The designers both came up with those ideas that kind of ended up in that logo.
But it's similar, like where I don't know if you've ever done this, but like canva.com has like a little logo designer, and you pick your things. And honestly, sometimes it'll come out with something really fantastic. And maybe that's a 1 out of 10 times, but that means 1 out of 10 times you're good to go. So, I mean, we're going to see more and more of this, I think, as some of this stuff becomes more and more commoditized.